Thank you for listening to WBN 324 Talk Radio. We now need to advise you that all shows that air on our network are strictly over 18 years old. Thank you for listening to WBN 324 Talk Radio.
What the fuck is this? This is political. Let's be honest.
WTRF.
Greetings, fellow sovereign beings. You're listening to WTFR on the World Broadcasting Network on dlive.tv/WTFR. That's the video platform. On WTFR.net, of course, on radio8424.com and studio84.24.com, hosted by Mark Watson, who's in the house right now. Good to see you. We got Noddy in the house as well, and I believe we're on radiosoapbox.com as well. There, courtesy of Paul English, and who knows where else? I don't know. 2 tin cans and a length of string. However, people are listening in, I don't know. But welcome to you. Anyway, you might notice, for those on the video platform, I'm not alone. I have a guest. And I'm very... we've got Tell's mum's just joined us in the chat, and Drugged Up Donkey. Good to see you, Dan. Right, sir. Okay, so let me introduce to you. I've got with me from... I think you're based in Texas, aren't you?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. This is... Jenna McClelland. Did I pronounce that right?
You sure did.
Excellent. So, well, I ran into Jenna, goodness me, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. I think I messaged you. I was actually kind of on holiday at the time. I was down in Tavistock, right on the Devon-Cornwall border in southwestern England, because well, my wife's dad got married for the 3rd time, and I think he got it right this time. So, but anyway, so that was really nice. We spent a few days down there, and obviously my wife's dad lives down there. And I was just catching up on podcasts, etc., and I ran into you on a podcast I follow called Here for the Truth. And, well... I guess probably the main topic of well, I don't know, one certainly prominent topic of conversation. Perhaps prominent was a bit of an inappropriate word to use there, but it's a taboo subject. We're basically kind of going to talk about the C word. I'll say genital mutilation. And its causes, its effects, everything in between, and you've got some very strong views on that. I was fascinated by what you had to say, and so enough from me for now. Listen, what I'm going to hand over to you. I'm going to say, please introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a bit about yourself, Jenna.
Well, hello, everyone. Joss, thank you for having me. I'm filled with a lot of gratitude in this moment, and it just feels a little surreal that a little wee Texan is on your channel. And everyone listening, I hope that you have an open heart and you're ready to listen to some really insane stuff. In the very beginning of my journey, I've always been very interested in the healing space. I've always questioned authority ever since I was, a kid. Like, I never subscribed to the news. I never subscribed to groupthink, and was always challenging narratives. And it ultimately, just as school happens, you're kind of growing as a teenager and in your early early 20s, a little confused about my life. So I definitely had a lot of confusion, but it was in my 30s when I really started to dial deeper into my healing journey and deeper into why am I here and what are the things that I am currently fearing in my life that are preventing me from ultimately sharing a lot more of what like I deeply intuitively know about the system. And the question asking, the going deep within self, understanding the mirrors of society and what is being reflected at me as a projection so that I could be degraded as a woman so that I'm not talking about the things that I should be talking about or people should be aware of. And in the very beginning of, I guess, the C word, it started when I was healing from chronic asthma. I had chronic asthma since I was 6 years old, and was basically on a inhaler all my life, and never had anyone from allopathy share that I could heal from this until I finally said, you know what, I think I can, because I was a yoga teacher at the time, and I started to notice some more capacity in my lungs to breathe, and I wasn't as reliant on my inhaler as much. And so I said, you know what, let's see if I can utilize more of these holistic teachings through Chinese traditional medicine and get rid of something that I'm holding on to. And that became this huge opening of, what essentially I was holding on to the most, which was the fear of my feminine processes, the fear of my bleed, the fear of what it was to be a woman, the fear of my sexuality, and the fear of really owning and embodying a sacred space of mine. And why don't I want to have kids? Where in the system is this being thrown at me to prevent me and keep me a lot more, like I said earlier, degraded and limited in my full capacity to access the full potential of a spirit in a woman's body? Mm-hmm. So I started to reclaim my sexuality through this healing journey of eating well and slowly being able to not need an inhaler anymore, to the point to where it was 2020 and they're putting a huge gag order on, the cult is putting a huge gag order on humanity, essentially, the year that I finally was able to breathe for the first time. And I lost my load, essentially. Like I was very resistant to it. And that's when I think a lot of people had a big 2020 vision awakening. And I too had a very immense awakening where, everything that you usually can find out these things within maybe a series of a couple of years, but within a series of a couple of months, it was just medical deception. Yeah, just medical deception and trafficking, the Wayfair. Like, I don't know how deep or what the things that like I can share, that I don't know what limits I have. Those are things that
most of my lot know. Go as deep as you like.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. So just every 5G, and I ended up breaking down pretty heavily. And I just so happened to find myself at my healer's office. And for 2 hours, like I was in the fetal position in one of his rooms. And it just coincidentally happened to be the fire room that I was in. And I crashed and burned. Like, what happens to me? Am I safe here? What is all this? What even happens when I die? What is this cycle of samsara? How do I get out of this cycle? How do I essentially escape the dark that is so apparent and magnetized in my face right now? And then I remember even listening to Beyonce on the way over there. And, she already has her connections to a lot of the dark side. And so through all this awakening and this crash and burning, I said, you know what, let's move on from yoga and let's help women awaken the way that I have, because I accessed my voice, and it is through a woman's womb. When you start to remove a lot of the energy blockages, you start to also remove them in the throat, giving her more access to her authority and to have more autonomy and agency in her life. And I found it to be so beautiful, and how I looked at myself in the mirror, and how people approached me, and how I wanted to take ownership of my life, and how I wanted to ask for the things that I wanted to have, opposed to kind of suggesting. It was more like, this is what I want, this is what I need, this is who I am. I love myself more than what I'm receiving. So my life just with like the byproduct of that, it just started to show such a beautiful world in front of me, and I wanted to share that with women. And I started creating these sexual organic healing oils for women to utilize their self-pleasure practice and through their yoni to access what I was accessing. And this went on for a couple of years. And then it was in 2023, 2 years before I turned, was it 36? Yeah, before I turned 36, I had a dream where I was a witness to a newborn baby boy being genitally mutilated in a medical setting. The picture that I received, the way that these doctors did the procedure, the way the baby looked at me, all the details were the same as what you would expect in a doctor's room. And he penetrated my soul with his, and we had an energy exchange. And essentially he says, you need to watch this. You need to be here with me. You need to witness this, and you need to do something. And I woke up screaming, crying, shaking, pleading to God, don't ever let me come back. Please don't ever let me come back as a baby boy. Like, what is this? Like, actually terrified in my body, even thinking. It was like my body could almost feel like the empathy was more intense than any type of empathy I'd ever felt in my entire life. And so the next morning, when I woke up, I collapsed in my ex-husband's arms and couldn't talk about the dream for at least a week without hysterically, unable to get any words out of my mouth to even share what I was talking about. And nor who do you even share this information with? Who do you even have a conversation about? Who's going to even take you seriously, or being able to empathize with your capability of empathizing with this dream of this soul child that came to me in a dream? It was extremely lonely and scary, because I knew it is one of the most taboo topics that currently exists for many reasons that we can get into. And it essentially just led me to, all right, day by day, I think this is a big deal. I need to kind of put working with women on pause and discover what is here. And it has led me to probably one of the most iconic journeys ever, at least in my lifetime. If I look back, if I even could see past lives, this is an iconic lifetime for me, for sure. So I'm very happy to be here and to share my story. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how you go on a quest to discover. I mean, what do I say? You go on a quest to discover your sexuality, within the realms of as I call them, the Abrahamic religions. Sexuality is such a taboo. To the point, you've got Islam responsible for FGM. You've got Judaism, supposedly, whatever, responsible for circumcision. And Christianity do neither of those things, but they don't half know how to put you on a guilt trip for the crime of being alive. Because, show me a human being that doesn't have sexual urges of some capacity, And then on the flip side of things, you've got this new religion that's coming about where, I know the same is the case across the pond, America and England. Our education system are pushing sexualization of all of that. And, we've got cases of, this has been in tabloid newspapers. Children as young as 4 are being taught about masturbation and stuff like that. They shouldn't, it's the age of innocence that shouldn't even be played with. So it's almost like it's a huge middle finger to the established church, if you will. It's degeneracy for the sake of it. And yet the very acts of the other two Abrahamic religions, what they do to people's bodies, what are they saying? Did God make a mistake? Did God get something wrong? Yeah. I know, but who makes who makes these rules? It's disgusting. And so coming back to the point I wanted to make, I think it's kind of interesting how you went on a sort of a quest about your femininity, sexuality. You wanted to discover that, but then you cannot. So you're on that journey, but you cannot have a yin without a yang, can you? And maybe that's exactly what led you there, because you have to. You cannot have one without the other. And so I think it's fascinating. And so, I mean, and mankind, I say men. I'm so used to phrases like people kind and stuff like that. But yeah, I know. Just say it as it is. But, men have been beaten with a big stick for about the last decade, really, maybe a bit longer than that. But, especially if you're a, toxic white male, you are at the bottom of the pile, and yet apparently we're all privileged. And we got all that nonsense to contend with. So everything that's going on in mainstream life, everything is about abuse. It's about trauma and evil.
Inversions, confusion, distortions. And, you can really point out anything that is dark by really focusing on it and noticing there's a trick in between. There's a trick in between the truth and what they're presenting with us. Yeah. And when you can reveal the trick, it's like, aha. It's like to trick humanity or any religious cult into, hey, this is something that is cleaner and better. Let's do it this way, because then you have this beautiful gold ticket to heaven. That is a trick. And so people have subscribed to fear. And it is through that subscription that they use their tactics, their mind control and brainwashing tactics. And that's how essentially we have gotten to where we are today. However, I will say that if we are expanding this into the spiritual war point of view, there are a lot of technological types of mechanisms in place that do actually web and keep the human spirit at bay, keeping us unable to really awaken. And it's a big harvesting of our life force, because ultimately, why would they even need to do that if we aren't powerful? Because this whole thing is ultimately everything we see is about power.
Let's go there. What do you know?
Oh, about like which part exactly? There's just so many different avenues we can take it.
I don't know. What's a big one for you?
A big source of how they take our power from us?
Yeah. Just shoot. Go for it. No pressure.
Yeah, that's like such a loaded question. I mean, I'm having a hard time really grounding into a specific, but what I do know is they can experience more fun, if you will, if we are subscribing to their tricks and their trickery. And they're capable of ruling much more over us and not being essentially pushed out of whatever it is, of wherever it is that we are. I mean, if I'm going this far back, now I'm starting to get a little bit confused, but everything that we can imagine is about power. It's power over infants, power over moms, power over the woman's body, power over the genitals, power over our connection to the divine, disconnects us, but harvest and use our energy for the benefit of whatever it is they want to benefit from. I just in my mind right now, I just keep seeing like a grid system, and we're just being used and just like plugged into some grid, and they're using our energies for their own devices to help them create realities that they currently want.
Yeah. This is something I keep running into. I mean, I'm on this I'm still trying to come to terms with the idea that I've got to accept that I create my own reality. That's a big one. That is such a big one, because I mean, without going into too much detail, in my younger years, I was crushed spiritually, emotionally and whatever. I felt that big for most of my childhood, much of my young adult life, and I still have incredibly dark days now. I don't mind admitting it. There's things that help, but it's kind of when you have an idea set into you in your formative years. It's part of you. You cannot divorce yourself from it. I've used the example often. You imagine a tree's been growing about 20 years, and along comes a guy with a chainsaw and he chops the thing off about that far from the ground, and the tree's still alive, and it will put out this sucker from the side, and the sucker, with, if you got a decent enough gardener who's going to look after the thing and nurture it, maybe in 20 years time, that sucker will have grown into no less of a beautiful tree than it was when it was hacked down, but it will always have that kink. And that's it. We have to embrace who we are, warts and all. And that's all part of loving ourselves. And sometimes it's the hardest thing to do, and it's what they don't want for us. And so when I and again, I'm not saying, I'm sort of addressing the listeners here. What I say, I don't say anything to offend people. I don't set out to offend people, but when I became a Christian all those years ago, and then I find out that my works are like filthy rags. It doesn't matter what I do. There's no pleasing God. My works are like filthy rags. It made me feel just as wretched as I did when I was a kid, and supposedly I'd converted to this religion in order to set me free, and I was right back at square one instead. And so I'm sorry, but I know there are lots of fervent believers, truly devout Christians, and they've got a personal relationship with their Lord and Saviour and all that. Ask me how I know. I was there once, but I was incredibly damaged goods. I cried out. Here's the irony for you. Here's the irony. I cried out to God for years for healing, inner healing. Everybody else used to be able to kind of function. They could get on with their lives, and boys met girls and girls met boys. And then there was me. I was Billy No Mates because I didn't fit in and all of that stuff. And I just couldn't divorce myself from this sense of inner wretchedness. And I cried out to God for healing for years, and healing didn't come until I left the church. And then the irony is, as I mentioned to you before we went live, I, of my own volition, joined the Church of Scientology. I didn't know it was the Church of Scientology. I was a little bit deceived, but I got this flyer with a big bold claim on it stating that it could fix me, and I thought, well, challenge accepted, and I took myself down there. It turned out to be Church of Scientology, and I thought, well, what the hell have I got to lose, But the tools they equipped me with, and other stuff I've learned since, it's kind of like, okay, so all that time crying out to God for healing, never mind the corporate God, the Most High, as I prefer to say now. Instead, God gave me some of the tools I needed to begin to fix myself. And, You know, there's the scripture says, God uses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. Well, what could be more foolish to a Christian than gleaning some means of healing from the Church of Scientology? It sounds totally out there, totally satanic, totally wandering from the path. But I needed to go through that because I had zero agency. Absolutely zero. And it was morsels that I could manage. And it set me on a path, you know? So anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. I do this. I'm terrible.
No, it's just really beautiful because you have to hit these obstacles and these road bumps and then see some things for what they are. And they finally have to be like, I need to stop outsourcing my own divinity that's within me. And so honestly, thank God that happened to you, because some people will stay and keep like, you know, taking and hoping that them continuing to give and serve every Sunday that they're going to be receiving what they need. But like, you get it within your connection, your wisdom, your intuition, your divine connection, your vessel, your body created by God. Go to your body, feel it inside you, explore what's available. And like me, ask all the questions, look into the doors that you don't want to look into. They may be dark, but on the other side of it, there is so much light. And that's exactly what they don't want us connecting to, is the light that is within us. Because ultimately, beyond the body will die. We will bury our body, but our soul was here before our body came. It's going to be here when our body dies. And so when we can use spirit within a spiritual war to remember we are whole, to remember our power, to remember that we can create a beautiful place inside of the body to live in, a beautiful sanctuary where we can create whatever it is that we want to create with our beautiful capacity to be intuitive, to connect with another human, to use our brain in connection to source so that we can create beautiful technology to solve all the solutions that need to be solved. It makes perfect sense why they want us completely harmed, dissociated, disembodied, subscribing to outside agencies, whether it's the medical cult or whether it's the religious cults.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so sophisticated and it's designed, but the way to access who we truly are is within ourselves, but it's also has to move a little bit more beyond the body, because the closer tied we are to the body, the more we create an identity over what it is that happened to us. But it's what happened to the body. Right. So it's just this recipe of beauty and glory and union and connection and power and potential and possibility against, you know, again, feeling small, using other people to tell you that they're going to help you when actually you need to be the one helping yourself. So it's kind of this mess, but ultimately it's really simple.
Yeah. I guess it is. It's usually the truth is staring us in the face, but can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah. The human brain likes to complicate things, but it's really simple. I think just all these answers are all, you know, we're looking for all this stuff. I think it's simple. I'm not saying that I have all the answers at all. Like, do not quote me on that. But I do know that when it's right in front of my face and I can't see it, I have to soften. And I know that it will be revealed to me. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so there was you saying about you sort of have to face the darkness within you and words to that effect, and then you find the light within yourself. Yeah, I've done a whole bunch of that the last 5 or 6 years, certainly shadow work.
Yeah.
And it's good. I mean, it's almost it's almost got to the stage where I kind of enjoy doing shadow work. I mean, there's been occasions I don't make a habit of, man, when I was in my teens and 20s, I self-medicated with illegal drugs because nothing worked. I used to take amphetamines, speed. I just couldn't function without it. Well, that was the illusion I was under at the time. I was so withdrawn. And the only way I could hold a conversation with someone else was I used to stir speed into my coffee in the mornings,
Wow.
every morning. That was me. And then, of course, the crashes were horrendous. Yeah, horrendous. And I used to smoke the older cannabis breakfast, lunch and tea. How I could say how I'm still alive. I've drunk myself to death nearly. Tried suicide, failed. Good thing,
Yeah.
I've been to the darkness and what have you, but it's amazing because all of that was because of self-loathing. It's like I'd been taught to despise myself. I was the most wretched creature. And so I've had to, it's taken a long time, decades, but I've had to sort of go through learning about, rather than trying to run away, because, everybody wants to run away from the dark side, all these, your movies, your Star Wars, you got Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, and oh no, we got to run away from the dark side and all of that. But actually, no, you don't, because it's part of you. But good luck running away from your sort of conjoined twin brother or sister or whatever that is supposedly completely evil. Good luck separating yourself from that, because it's part of you. And
Right.
Who said it was evil? It's your shadow. Face it head on. And it's taken some time. And I have used what I call medicine to face it on occasions. But it's like when you face it, you find a very young version of yourself, very, very hurt, traumatized version of your younger self. And then you get into reparenting that whole realm and stuff. So yeah, that's been a journey for me, but hey, I'm still a head case. I'm still a total head case, but
Well, you're a Scorpio like me, so
No,
you're
I'm
a
not.
masochist.
well, I am a masochist.
And you're rising. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Aquarius. I'm
Okay.
an Aquarius with Cancer moon, so I've got all the watery emotions, and Scorpio rising. So yeah, I'm a masochist.
Yeah, as am I. It's like, birth and death. Like I'm in constant cycle. And you did such a beautiful job peeling the layers back of what it is to take on a hero's journey and to look into the wounds and to find yourself in your lifeline at a different age of a part of you. It's just so interesting how it reflects back, how time really isn't linear, because I too have opened a bunch of wounds, like, let's say, for example, abortion trauma. And that was something that I thought that I had healed. And when I started to do deep womb work, I had to face it head on. And I invited that 22-year-old Jenna into my consciousness and began having different types of conversations with her, looking at her for where she was, seeing it from a loving, beautiful sister-like perspective, and getting to hold her and meet her. And it was through this beautiful exchange, she and I rewrote the story in my consciousness. Therefore, it leaps me into a new timeline. So now when I look back at that experience, it's not as traumatic as it was. I actually look back and have this genuine love for her, that no matter the mistakes that I have made, no matter the shame, no matter the betrayal that I experienced, not only that I received, but I also I gave. I betrayed some people too. So coming to that ownership and that deep radical responsibility of self in your story, but still offering that level of forgiveness and knowing that you, like you said earlier, you are this creator. So through the design of this creator that we have within our life, within our consciousness, we can rewrite stories and recreate new imprints in our system so that we can lift into a whole new experience. And when we look back, still feel the love, but we know that when we feel love, when we look back, that means that we have healed it. That's no longer part of our memory, because that's what happens is these things get kind of these splinters. They continue to get stuck into our body. They continue to get stuck into our etheric body and our energy body, and we have to remove them. And if we don't, we will take this on with us to the next incarnation. And so that's why it is everything in this journey is about radical responsibility, because I actually came into this lifetime like, give it to me. I'm going to do it because I want to evolve and I want to take complete ownership of my soul's brilliance and see what that can lead to and see what I can learn and see what gifts I can receive along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So, well, I've got a bunch of questions, which I think, I don't know, I'm not going to go there straight away because I think we've kind of, I look at it like we've sort of laid the foundations thus far, and we've been going about 35 minutes. And it's been really good. I love talking about this stuff. It's important because so many lives are wrecked. So many people are broken and they don't know where to turn. So if I can help, I hope I can help in some way to at least with listeners, when I go all deep and woo woo like this, I don't always, sometimes I'm just in a silly mood, but when I go all kind of deep and woo woo like this, I hope at least it kind of helps, some people can identify with it, because there are so many lost souls now. We hear of the whole incel movement. Why did that have to become a thing? It's tragic.
What is the incel?
Involuntary. Maybe you don't know. It's kind of, I guess it kind of sprung out of the alt-right. We've got this sort of, everything's politicized. It's hard left, hard right, and all of that. And I'm neither left wing nor right wing. I call myself a bit of an anarchist, and that's about it. Because anarchy. Same. Good, yeah. No slaves, no masters. All of that.
Absolutely.
That's all that means. I'm so glad we're on the same page there. But yeah. And so especially because of radical feminism, traumatized souls who have been taught to hate men, who clearly hate themselves when you look at the way they look. It's a stereotype, morbidly obese, blue hair, and all that kind of thing. It's tragic because they can't see how much they despise themselves, and yet they've been programmed to despise men. And so we've I don't know, it's starting to, I think this empowerment of women, and when I say empowerment of women in quotes, right, because what you're doing is one thing, but there is this label, empowering women, but this is kind of corporate, mainstream newspeak these days. You never see anything about empowering men. So there's no balance. This stuff is starting to manifest itself in the physical now. You know, things whatever is why I think a lot of people they do a lot of wrong throughout their life, and they get old. They get to sort of 65, 70 years old, and you can see on their faces and how twisted up their bodies are, because the darkened spirit within them is manifesting itself in the physical. And we're starting to see this in young people. I mean, I wander around the local supermarket and whatever, even though I'm actually getting less and less from a supermarket, because 85% of what they sell isn't even food. But
it's trash.
Yeah, totally. But I see big women and little men, and a lot of the women are taller than the men. And, you know, the women are wearing the trousers, and the men are wearing these skimpy little shorts and stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? There's just this total role reversal has happened, and it's programming. All of it is just programming. And it's what a dangerous thing. I don't want to call them elites, but you know what I mean when I say the elite or the cabal, the
parasites.
The parasites. They know everything about the human psyche. They're the world's best psychiatrists, psychologists. Push a button here, and you will cause the herd to run over there or over here or whatever. And so I think politically, I'll say this, and we'll sort of get things back on track. I go off on so many tangents. I'm terrible, but
and I have such a crazy story about all this, like, that I just keep thinking that's like, I literally was just in the face of everything that you're saying, and I ended up telling a they them off.
Good. We'll go
in front of a whole for a classroom. But what if I were to share a little piece of information? What if this gender confusion is beyond the human psyche and actually a degradatory technology that is in the 12-dimensional field of our holographic blueprint?
Wow. I wasn't expecting that.
Because that's what we're operating with. We're operating with degradatory types of technology that have been webbed and thrown as nets onto the magnificent archetype of the masculine and the feminine. Okay. So they're basically spearing different tags onto the humans that are coming in and putting gender confusion on a lot of them. It's a relatively new tag within the past couple of years, because think about, how this is just skyrocketed into what it is currently today when we're dealing with LGBT, blah, 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 abracadabra.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's never ending. And then it's rolling more on top of more technology. And then it's rolling more on top of the rape of children. It's rolling more on top of molestation. It's rolling more and more on top of enslavement. So, but if you were to, again, peel the layers back away from the 3D a little bit, you would see there are actual forces at play here that are printing this on some of the templates of humans that are actually walking this realm.
Yeah, it's interesting what you said. So it's genius. It is psychology, but this is, I don't know, maybe AI has been around a lot longer than we've been led to believe. Because I'm not quite ready to go there yet with aliens. I keep an open mind. I mean, I believe in God, but and spiritual forces, etc. But I'm just sort of thinking there is this intelligence, and it is of far more advanced intelligence, has built this crazy chessboard, and we're all just pawns in the game, but there has been this fantastical mind manipulation trick, the exactly as you've described, the LGBTQ stuff, that's been thrust on everyone ultimately. And just to round out what I was just finishing off saying a couple of minutes ago. Personally, I think where we're going to end up, where I think the goal is, and I've heard this said, I think about 3 years ago, there was a guy called Jason Brashears. He's got a channel called Archaics, which I was very interested in for a while, but I haven't seen anything by him for 2 or 3 years now. But he sort of made this prediction in one of his videos, and he said, the future we're coming into is going to be very right-wing, puritanical Christian. And it resonated with me so much because it looks like we're going to hell, but that's just the technique. Where's everybody running? Because everyone's minds have been so poisoned with this vile bastardization, this corruption of what should be. Of course they're going to run in the opposite direction. Of course. And of course everything's extreme left wing, screechy, hatey. We're grabbing for other people's money. We're taking your houses, and we're taking your, I was reading an article last week, thanks to our glorious and beloved Labour government, right? Something like 6,350 farms have closed in the last year because farmers, they can't, when old man farmer dies, the government want their slice, and they haven't got the money because supermarkets drive down everything that is thrust upon us, the suffering souls. Everything is there to destroy, it's there to traumatize. And of course, it's driving everyone very deliberately into a right-wing future where capitalism will reign. Maybe it'll be stakeholder capitalism or whatever, but it's going to be the stinking rich and the rest of us. And that's where I believe we're heading. It's so obvious to me. But yeah, where you were going. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to chuck that in, really.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, cool. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to say hello to a few folk in the chat because we got a bunch more people now. We got Mopar 440 in the house. We got Pandora Chaser, good to see you. We got Didgeridoo 3. We got DJ Ash in the house, and anyone else. We got a bunch of people, more lurkers than chatters. Ash, thank you very much for the ice cream. Did I say hello to? We got Made in Cornwall as well. Wow, what a comment there from Made in Cornwall saying, sorry, can't listen anymore. The dead baby hasn't had the chance to feel anything. I guess, wow. Okay, right. Anyone else in the chat before we carry on? I think I've got everyone, but anyway, if you are still listening in, Made in Cornwall, what can I say? Bless you. Okay. I think we should get into the thing that kind of drew me to you in the first place, really. Where do we begin with the circumcision? So we know we're in this world of, there's two worlds we live in. We've got the Garden of Eden, if you will, which is nature and everything's lovely and in abundance. And then we've got the concrete jungle. We've got maritime law. We've got debt-based everything. laws that are set against the people, everything that the powers that should not be have set up is against us. It goes against natural law. And then there is mutilation. Where do you want to go from?
I don't know. I mean, there's so many layers to it. I feel like we just kind of throw a dart at the board, I guess, and just go from there.
Okay. Where, if you were, let's just do this. If you wanted to just kick off and tell someone a story, like, I've got something really crazy to tell you about circumcision, and you need to know some stuff. What would that stuff be?
Circumcision of newborn baby boys is probably one of the more barbaric practices that exists on our land today. And for anyone listening who doesn't really know much about circumcision, it is a dark hole. And there are a lot of systems in place that are keeping us from talking about circumcision. Like, we got to ask ourselves the question, why is this a surgery that's been existing for eons? Like, it's the oldest surgery in the world and it's the most practiced. Why? Are the narratives the same? What's changed? Like, how are things evolving to the place to where, like, we are where we're dealing with a medical cult that is essentially prescribing circumcision as a elective and cosmetic surgery? Why would we even want to lay babies down? Do you even know what is going on in the hospital room? Do you know what's going on with mom? Like, there are so many different elements that create this whole debacle in general. I mean, when you originally asked me that question, the first thing that I thought is that babies will scream so loud that their lungs will burst in their chest and they'll die because of the excruciating pain that is placed upon these babies. And, you know, we can start within the spiritual space first, if you want to go there, because essentially that's kind of where I began my journey. You know, the dream was incredibly spiritual, like that. There's nothing really more
Sure.
spiritual than feeling like you have just received this almost prophetic type of dream, where I realized that was an angelic calling of that's what my assignment here on earth is. And it led me to really understanding what happens to these babies on a soul level, and the soul will leave the body of these infants. And so we're talking about bringing innocence, the purest of pure, literally just came in from the other side, whatever it is that you believe about God, about heaven, what it may be. But he crossed a portal through the birthing canal, through his mom's womb, and is placed upon a sexual medieval torture device, where it is a wooden or a plastic board where they will strap the baby down with Velcro, literally like a crucifixion board, where he is about to be raped by religious cults and by medical cults and by the brainwashing of people that think this is for the benefit of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you can think about that in general, I mean, we can talk about all different types of trauma, all different type of SRA and satanic ritual abuses and what they do. There is nothing more evil than lying a fresh infant down on a board and ripping the most sensitive part of his body off, considering the context of where it is, where they're ripping and amputating part of his body. It's on his genitals. His genitals is his connection to God. His genitals is connection to his co-creative ability. He is hijacked not only in his body and his experience and in his brain, causing developmental issues. The brain will never go back to baseline. Everything that happens with his behavior, because the amygdala, he'll never trust his family. He will have just a lot of anger and rage that is inflicted upon him and imprinted into his system. So if you were to think of this one little occurrence that's so happening, that's just a quick thing, right? It's just a piece of skin. Might as well just cut it off.
Uh-huh.
But these babies are now walking around in society. Who are these men? What is that creating within the picture that we're currently experiencing today?
Yeah.
And how have they impacted and literally not transformed or transmuted? That's not the word. Literally have like given or spilled all of their trauma onto other people. How many of these men are raping and hurting other people? Because the big population of violators and rapists are all circumcised. There's been morticians who have seen all the suicide deaths, because suicide is a huge, huge problem. Even in the UK, they have just said that more men have died of suicide in the UK than war, famine, accidents, homicide, than any other.
Yeah.
Since 1945. So we're not just like laying babies down as though that is incredibly messed up. Think about the implications that web out into a mass cultural, societal, like human way. The brains of these men, the amputation, the distrust, the breaking of these archetypes of the mother and father are gone. Yeah. Nor is his ability to fully, deeply connect with another woman. So not only have they infiltrated the infants, the innocence of man, they have infiltrated the relationship between him and his family, and then him as the new family that he's created, that he's supposed to protect.
It's like total ownership from 8 days old.
8 hours old, some literally right when they come out of the womb.
Really? I was always to believe.
Yeah. One of the women that have been so influential on my journey is Janice Barcelo. And she says that she knows that she's had reports of them doing it right after the baby has exited the wound, just to get it done.
Wow.
Babies don't feel pain, right? That's been a huge narrative that they've been giving and handing off this story. And they've even given open heart surgery and abdominal surgery to infants, because they, for the longest time, up in the 50s and up until the 50s or 60s, they said babies really can't feel pain. So they started doing all these surgeries to them without any form of anesthetic.
Amazing.
When our feeling sense is most profound right after birth.
Yeah. And I mean, it's whether babies can feel pain or not, it doesn't change the fact that they've had a quite serious wound inflicted upon them. Whether they can feel it or not, it has still happened, and the body is going to record that as a trauma. I'm sure you know, and this is a lot of what I learnt in my 1 year in the Church of Scientology was trauma is stored at the cellular level. I'm sure you know this stuff. So
yeah,
it's not the thinking brain. When you're a baby, you're never going to recollect. It's not going to be a memory, but a subconscious, a shadow memory. The trauma stored at the cellular level. Every now and again, you will encounter a situation in life where the circumstances, the surroundings, the temperature is right. Maybe like you were involved in a car crash or something. You were knocked unconscious and it was a sunny day and there was a gentle breeze blowing and there was a certain tune playing in the background and somebody honked their horn or whatever, and then years later the weather will be very similar and somebody will honk a horn and all of a sudden you're going into a state of panic and you've got absolutely no recollection. Why? Because the trauma was recorded at the cellular level, but you've got no conscious memory of it. And so then you start thinking you're mad, and you go and see your doctor, and the doctor prescribes you drugs or whatever, and you get no help unless, of course, you start to explore this subconscious. What a minefield.
Yeah.
It all is. And I mean, the process, you know, I did a bit of sort of digging myself and catching up on your podcast that you've done. I think I hesitate to call him a gentleman who carries out the procedure. I think I'm right in saying he's what's known as a mahil or something.
The mohil in Judaism.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it doesn't even involve a precision instrument. It's a fingernail,
yes,
and rip.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sorry to be so graphic, listeners, but, you know, whether quite how prevalent that is right now, I don't know. But this is just one side of it, of course. The extreme trauma, which I'm sure we're not done with. There's a whole industry connected with this vile act. I don't know if you want to get into that now, or you want to carry on talking about the trauma. Just we've got an hour to go.
Oh my God, we got plenty of things to talk about. We could even go over the hour. We
can if you want. We can if you want, but we go off air.
Yeah. No,
hour,
I'm just saying, like, there's just so much stuff to reveal. Truly.
Go for it.
Yeah. Let me see what I can start channeling, because we left off. So we'll go back into the spiritual for a minute and then come back. That's kind of like, I think, like a trend I just started doing. Then we'll do it that way, right? Move from the etheric into the physical. What I ended up learning on my journey is, it was about 2 months after this dream that I had in 2023, I embarked on a journey with my then, and still current mentor named Brenda Pantango. And she taught me a modality called soul rejuvenation. And it's through soul rejuvenation where you're capable of really understanding the soul and what happens after trauma. Parts of the soul will end up leaving the body. And a lot of people that are disconnected from spirit, disconnected from their body, have had pieces of their soul leave due to trauma, due to accidents, due to bad breakups, like whatever it is that happens in life. And that's why people are in a frenzy. They lose their things all the time. They can't really be present. They trail off, they zone out. They don't have a really short attention span. So a lot of it actually has to do with some of the pieces that get lost. And so what she ended up integrating into the system was the idea about these implants, seals, and tags that I've kind of started to mention. Like when I mentioned there's gender confusion tags and degradatory types of technology. So part of soul rejuvenation, she gave me the education and the process to remove the sexual misery implants that are connected to the archetypal male, the masculine, and the feminine. Mm-hmm. And it also goes in with circumcision. So circumcision is satanic ritual abuse, essentially. And it is a proxy for sacrifice.
Right.
It's the biggest spiritual wounds placed upon anybody. And they targeted the masculine specifically because he holds and keeps the container of safety for family. So if you can basically crash and split him, traumatize him, then he's not going to have the ability to do what he's actually truly in his purpose to be able to create within his family and within his life. Mm-hmm. So what the spilling of the blood represents, it's a blood tie. It ties him to the demons, Moloch. And it's what keeps that energy of the demons alive. And so all these babies that have been cut are walking around with this black magic SRA that is connecting them to Satan. It's Luciferian. And it also implants within him a false god ideology. Therefore, he will choose specific dogmatic, thoughts where he will believe and subscribe to more things and is disconnected from his truth and from what true light, what true God, whatever it is that you want to call it is. And so even knowing that and understanding that from like a deep spiritual level for me was like, okay, I can handle this because, you know, I'm a Scorpio. I go deep, I go deeper and I go deeper. And I was able to maintain essentially this amount of information in my body because, again, like I just really enjoy revealing and really enjoy going into the depths of how this stuff can really play out. And it took I think about, I guess 6, maybe a little less than 6 months. Well, from the dream up until I actually started talking about it, I had to go deep inside of myself and heal all of my junk, all of my trauma. I had to go into the shadows so that I could be sure that I showed up as a woman, specifically as a woman, a little woman. I'm 5'3", right? To talk about circumcision, no one's doing this. How do I say this? Who am I going to lose? What's going to happen to me? My husband at the time was not a fan of it at all, did not support me. So this whole process of watching these videos, of hearing the baby screams, of hearing testimony, of going deep into all the information, all the studies, all the research, everything was, it was months of just crying on my floor alone in my office. I was living in North Carolina at the time, and I had nobody to talk to about it because who do you talk to about it? Which makes it even more messed up because when people do eventually wake up to it, they realize this kind of like 1 against a billion, because even more than that, because not that many people have it within them to actually unlock the truth within what they know in their body so that they can feel and resonate with other truths that exist so that we can eventually kind of get rid of everything that we're dealing with now. And I slowly ended up just, so I'm kind of just getting more into my physical story now. How do I get this information out there? I knew that I would lose family. I knew that I would lose friends. I knew that I was close to losing my husband, but I was being pulled into a direction that was so deep that I could not follow it. I knew that I would be going way against something bigger than me. And it has been a journey of, finally saying, all right, let's do this, Jenna. Like, who else is going to do it? You've removed this symbolic gag order. You can breathe now. You can take up space. You have gone to the trenches of yourself inside of your womb and healed things that most people will never heal. And I ended up finally coming out with a bunch of, like you said, you've seen some of my content and started to release information up until finally a couple months later, I ended up saying, okay, let's leap, let's jump. I left my husband. I got deeper into sharing my views on it on other platforms that were a lot more public for me on a personal level. YouTube, I could hide. I don't really have, like, you're not really having friends and DMing, but I started to reveal everything on YouTube. And it was then that everything started to crash and I lost everything. And when it comes to something as deep and as dark as circumcision, and knowing that I can be a light worker and share the truth with people and come from compassion and come from love and come from reverence of the male body, I knew that I would eventually be caught in a beautiful new net of reality, and which is where you currently find me. But in order to really dive into something like this and become an advocate, you have to be sure that you are always coming from the energy of light, because it is so dark. There are a lot of tactics, a lot of people, a lot of bots, a lot of psychic agendas that will try to leech and take your life force to prevent you from going as deep as this and allowing us to awaken. So when you can think about this infant, like I said earlier, who is traumatized, in shock, loses his soul pieces, disconnects him from mother, never trusts his parents again. He's in a lot of pain. he will grow up with behavioral problems. He gets really confused, and then he gets back into the webbing of, okay, this is good, right? You should circumcise. This is what you are supposed to do. And then they end up making fun of other males who actually didn't experience trauma in their life. And even in that, it's just like wild to think that mutilation is so liberated in American culture that if you're not mutilated, then you are a dirty, disgusting part of humanity, and you are completely shamed. And to shame somebody's genitals in that capacity is probably some of the worst shaming, because again, it's very connected to our ability to co-create, our ability to connect to source and our God, and to echo that back into the realm of more ascension, of more beauty, but it's been degraded purposefully. And as I've been along this path and getting even more curious than I already am, I tapped into the lives of these men who were cut, but the lives of the ones that actually are in a lot of pain. And a lot of them want to kill themselves. A lot of them had never had anybody in their life that they've ever been able to connect with. Their moms and their dads, I've shamed them. It's been trivialized. You should love it. Therapists, specialists will even project their cultural bias and thought because they've probably also been circumcised or circumcised their sons. They don't have a safe space, and nobody is really here. So essentially, when I found a lot, like on Reddit, there's like these group chats, it's called Circumcision Trauma. If you want to go down that rabbit hole on Reddit, these men are in a lot of pain. They're hurting. They don't think they can have children. Their penis doesn't function properly. They are emasculated. They feel less like a man. They can't get a relationship, and they have absolutely nowhere to go, and they hate their families. And so just thinking about the energy behind all of that, it makes kind of like a lot of sense. And you were talking a lot about earlier about this, men are privileged. Like, why aren't we really helping our men? Well, it's because there is this narrative and this banner of you're a white male of privilege. What are you talking about? You could climb up the ladder. You're totally fine. There's nothing wrong with you. You've been gifted everything. You're the patriarchy. You're actually the problem. You're the one who's doing this and doing that. But like, why aren't we looking at why are they doing this and that? Where is that coming from? It's intentional. It's all intentional.
Yeah.
And I've essentially just, as deep as we can go on other things, but again, I guess I've just sticking to like my story here. It's been such a journey of finally walking into the lives of these men and actually being a woman to ask them questions, to let them know that they are worthy, that their experiences and feelings are incredibly valid, and that they can sit back and rest, because I will do everything in this small body that I have and the spirit that I have within me to vouch for them, to be the voice that nobody is out here being. And to say that just almost brings me to tears because of how deep this is in me on a cellular level, to help people awaken to the devastation of what is happening and how it is infiltrating, not through just the United States, but through the entire world. And I don't know. I feel like that's kind of like where I'm going to finish my little spiel here, because now my mind is going blank, because I just sit so deeply in knowing that I am so proud of myself for tapping into a purpose. And I'm so proud of myself for have lost everything that I have lost. And I would do it all over again just to know and just to be here for people who have never had a voice to speak up for them.
That's, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Wow. I'm just having a quick look in the chat here. Yeah, I think there's so many thoughts in the chat, but I can't possibly pick up on a thread. Yeah, lots of I'll say this: we got Tell's mum in the chat here saying, "Just wow, Jenna, you are one amazing lady." There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, it's I'm like crying on your radio. But you allowed me to speak in a way that channeled this energy, and I have the divine mother grace to show up as the mother energy that they didn't have, and that will not be available to fully help them heal and process circumcision in this lifetime. Because if you can consider robbing an infant and devaluing him, traumatizing, shocking him in this way so quickly after the exit of the womb and this portal into this 3D realm, there's no way that she will ever be able to help remediate his full healing, because the wound is too deep. It's too quick. It's too soon. So I have been channeling the mother energy for him to help him feel that he is, again, worthy of a beautiful life, and that he can reclaim his power. And being able to channel that in this moment was really beautiful. So thank you for creating the space for me to share that with your audience. It means a lot.
Well, I think pleasure is the wrong word to use. But, yeah, I'm happy to serve. Again, what you're saying smacks of, it's like what I was saying about the tree.
Yeah.
In this lifetime, never going to fully recover, but acceptance and growth, correct nurture, you become no less of a tree than you were before. No less of a human being than you were before, but will always carry the scars. As tragic as it is, but that's the beauty of life, the power to overcome the greatest of adversities, I guess. I mean, yeah. We've all got our adversities to overcome, but man alive, that is so, I mean, it's not something I can't relate to it, obviously, on the physical. It didn't happen to me, you know. I'm not Jewish. I don't know whether you've got Jewish roots yourself or what, but
no.
You don't. No, mm-mm. So it's I find that fascinating how you kind of got onto this, because it is for the most part associated with Judaism. But at the end of the day, again, you know, I have to kind of reiterate, I certainly don't set out to offend, and I'm sure you don't. I think the problem with taking offense comes down to closed-mindedness. I've got to be blunt. It does come down to closed-mindedness, because this is the way we've always done things. It's been done this way for thousands of years, whatever, and just accept it. It's the way things are, and any daring to question such narratives, you're committing the ultimate cardinal sin, and you're going to have the ADL hunting you down or whatever, where they're just about I don't know what to say about the ADL. Probably best not. Okay, so where I think is, I don't know whether now's the best time to go there, but I'm just going to go there anyway. I mentioned to you before you did your kind of channeling thing. Bless you.
Yeah. I mean, you asked me to share a story, I just
you did.
Happened. It's natural. Yeah.
No, that's fine. Absolutely fine, and thank you. But there is a whole industry attached to this that I certainly had no clue about until I started checking out your channel. You did like a sort of a mini series, the first 7 or 8, however many videos you did, explaining everything. And there is this whole industry. Fibroblasts is something. Kellogg's came up. There's stem cell. Like foreskins are being sold. Start with that.
Yes.
One. Just let's expose just how insidious this is.
Would you like me to start with Kellogg, because he's kind of one of the pioneers, and then I'll go from Kellogg and I'll weave it into
wherever you think's best.
The incentives and the profit that's basically on the backs of
wherever you think's best. You're the expert at this.
Circumcision came into the United States because, the reason why I bring up the United States is because it's predominantly practiced here. I think we're a little bit below 50% right now. Actually, I can't even say that because nobody really even knows the numbers. There are a lot that go underreported. It's just like really hard to gauge that, but it's still a really high number. It's one of the highest opposed to Islam. And he brought it in because he was an extreme, and there was a couple of these pioneers. I think the guy who created graham crackers was actually, I just recently found out from a friend, is also one of these doctors that were kind of behind the anti-masturbation campaign, which essentially is what circumcision was and how it got brought into the United States under the umbrella of cleanliness, under the umbrella of morale, under the umbrella of being sure that we keep children that are evolving in puberty and their adolescence, and prevent them from masturbating, pleasuring themselves, touching themselves, having any form of carnal desire, so that they can stay more onto studying the Bible. And Kellogg was a huge pervert. Like, he had an aversion to sex. He had an aversion to children, essentially, and would tell his family or the parents to follow the children or the boys specifically at night around the house to catch them in the act of circumcising. And he told the act of masturbation. And if they caught that, thank you for that catch. And then if they caught them, then they would circumcise them. So they would basically, he said, tie your boys down to the bed, cut his foreskin off, sew it shut. Or if you notice that any of the girls, any daughters are doing the same, pour carbolic acid on her clitoris to prevent them from accessing high levels of, using the erogenous zones and high levels of pleasure to study and experience their sexuality. And he was pretty sick. Like, he has some books, and he said, amongst others, that circumcision alleviates and remediates blindness, bedwetting, dumbness, epilepsy, tuberculosis. Like, every decade had a new doctor that would come in, and they would say, oh, this is the disease of the decade. Let's go ahead and use circumcision, because there are plenty of doctors who have said that circumcisions essentially pay for their Mercedes-Benz, that they everything that they have. So that now weaves us into this whole demonic greed system that we're not just like, not only are we handing off these babies and giving consent, when everything from the procedure, for the doctor's time, for the circumstance, the medical devices, the tools, the anesthetics, and a lot of the anesthetics don't even work. They can't work because the right amount of dose to give these infants actually would kill them. So 96% of circumcisions actually go without anesthetic, but if they do, they don't use enough to actually fully numb him out all the way. And then there's a cream, and I even read the insert, because you can read the manufacturer of these medications from pharma. They have the inserts, and you can go in and see, particularly the vaccines, you can see that there's aborted fetal cells and all different types of crap in them. And some of these creams have even noted, and I remember I was completely disgusted. They will blister. They've caused blisters on foreskins. And so imagine an infant is getting a numbing cream that isn't even supposed to be on the genitals of anybody, nonetheless, the genitals of a child under the age of 1. And because it's very new, sensitive skin, it will blister. They have recorded that it has blistered the skin. And so they will also not only rip the foreskin, which is adhered to the glands of the penis, for protective mechanism purposes and cleanliness, for it to keep safe and away from feces and urine. But yet, how about we cut it off and put this baby in a diaper? How about that? Because that makes perfect sense of cleanliness and hygiene and not having any form of infection whatsoever. Disgusting. So these creams and these medications that are lethal and that can cause a lot of extra pain, already loaded on top of the fact that this has been peeled, ripped, and amputated off of him, because the foreskin isn't just like a piece of skin. It's an actual organ. And there's no part of the human body that's simple. There's no part of the human body that's trash. And there have been doctors in the American Association of Pediatrics have even admitted to people, other intactivists in the field, that they recorded and they think that the numbers of the amount of how innervated and how many nerves are on the foreskin level up to 80 to 100,000. The female clitoris is at 8,000. So then if you want to let's just poke in a little bit of this feminist movement of how these feminists think that, oh, our pleasure is so much better, poor you guys with all this stuff. It's just like another thing where it's like, no, we don't have any education, any anatomical guidelines that are actually really educating, nor when you even look at a diagram of a penis, are you even seeing the foreskin? So it's just been completely erased from our vision, from our education, from our any scope of intellect and actual true knowledge of what this body part, what this organ actually does and how it functions. It is a full functioning, engineering, beautiful mechanism that, we can get into the sexuality in a little bit, but let's keep going into the money. Let's keep with the flow of that. So all the tools, the doctor visits, and then you have the revisits of these kids. The doctor has to go and continue to keep checking their genitals. Let's keep adding more trauma because, every time that baby goes into a car seat, all these different implications of him being strapped down keep replaying the imprint of his trauma. So he keeps getting loaded and loaded and loaded with more of this assault, essentially. We have the beauty industry is buying these foreskins for the sake of the fibroblasts, which is what you mentioned. And they are putting it into products and creams that are going onto the faces of women. So essentially the moms are probably most likely, maybe depending on the creams that they choose to use, could essentially maybe one day happen to have the foreskin of their son. You can buy the fibroblasts, you can buy the foreskin actually online if you want to. You can get online and go check it out and do that now. So it's infiltrated beauty. It's infiltrated the satanic cult in Hollywood, claiming how amazing it is because of the qualities of the fibroblast. I'll get into that in a minute. And then you have these burn units and these wards that actually, for skin grafts and things. And then, we can continue to go into this baby grows up into a man. Well, he was cut. All have the highest loaded erogenous zone of nerve endings and sensation was removed. So he will experience impotence. He will experience erectile dysfunction. He will also experience perhaps even premature ejaculation because of the trauma that was inflicted upon him. The trauma of it's a mother wound. It's the wound of a mother. So there are these different ways and mechanisms that the imprint in the subconscious body will bail out of intimacy and disconnect him within his marriage. And then again, that's more of that, but he's buying Viagra. He's going to the therapist. He doesn't know why he can't handle his anger issue. He doesn't know why he can't connect. He is buying a lot of lube. Here comes the sexual wellness industry with all this lube, right? The foreskin actually helps create lubrication mechanisms that also are applied within the female. So the whole experience within the sexuality of the man and the feminine has completely been hijacked by removing such a prominent, important piece of the male sexuality, because the foreskin also contains receptors in it specifically that connect to his brain. They move up the channel of his spinal cord all the way into his brain, and they help release a cocktail of neurochemicals that allow him to bond and fall in love. So now that's been removed. So it's $6 billion that we're talking about. And I have seen other people who have added it even higher and higher numbers. But like, I mean, you could probably figure out other ways in which circumcision has infiltrated as other elements of this greed, of this the capitalistic, is that even a word? But, the greed behind the capitalism, essentially. Yeah. And so the fibroblasts, and why they're so important, is because the fibroblasts are like the stem cells of the connective tissue. So a fibroblast can turn into skin, it can turn into bone, it can turn into muscle tissue, it can turn into cartilage. So anything that is created within our actual connective tissue, a fibroblast, when applied a certain language, the language of cells is actually force. Homeostasis is where our body needs to maintain its level to survive. But if we were to go out into severe cold, our body is going to have to adapt in homeostasis to keep us alive. So essentially, that's how you encourage the movement, or encourage the transformation of a fibroblast into a different cell, to become skin, to become more collagen, whatever it is that's going to fix up the, burn victims, whatever it is going to fix up, Sandra Bullock and Oprah's face.
Yeah, I remembered there was some celebrity. I couldn't remember which one it was exactly, but yeah, didn't she say something like on air live? Oh, this cream I'm wearing is made out of foreskins or something. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing.
Laughing about it on Ellen. Oprah even has one of these skin creams. It's like hers.
Yeah.
And you can even get a penis facial in Hollywood, and it's like $600 a pop.
Wow.
And they're laughing about it. And apparently a lot of the foreskins that they're getting in are from Korea. But I mean, it doesn't matter if they're Korean or they're American. Like, we're still putting baby genital, like black marketed skin on our faces and walking around with it. Can you imagine if we actually really just like think about that for a minute? It's like you can see a woman with like a meat face. Do you remember, what's her name? Lady Gaga, when she walked around? I mean, it was completely symbolic with the meat suit. Do you remember she would like that? Like, we literally have meat on our bodies of torture.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know it was a thing. And I'll bet 90% of people listening didn't even know this was a thing. It's like the worst thing of the Matrix, times it by 1,000 or something. This is so dark. Unscrupulous is too soft a word to use, but amazing. And you say $6 billion
plus
industry.
Put a plus sign at the end of that.
Plus,
yeah.
Sure.
I mean, like, I could probably sit down and think of like other ways that this is really affecting, because then, women are starving for connection. We are really hoping and wishing that our partner would really be able to disconnect. Then what are we buying to supplement our suffrage, and really hoping that these traumatized men who don't realize that they're traumatized, and that the way that they behave essentially is because of such a infant trauma, that like we're also going to therapy. I have, because my ex-husband was cut and he didn't want to look at it. I was crazy. I had nobody to talk to about it. Right. And so even I went to therapy. Even I asked all my mentors and put a lot of money into trying to find ways to deeply connect on an emotional and soul level with someone that I deeply, deeply love and still love. And everything of what I know about women and how there's this bailout and how they have a lot of disconnection from self and how their husbands don't make them feel safe anymore. And I'm not trying to like say that, you know, men are bad and men are causing, but it's like none of this is really being like, nobody is recognizing what's causing it. And a lot of these men are probably suffering a lot more than women are, but men have been conditioned not to talk about it. Like you are trivialized, you are mocked. If you talk about your feelings, you are not a man. You're made fun of. You get a what are those where they flush the toilet on a kid? Like we get like a swirly. I remember kids getting swirlies in high school or in middle school. Like you're just completely bullied. And this bullying, where does that stem from? Bullying stems from having an infant or having a child grow up into a family where there's been abuse. Well, what is more abusive than the assault of wrapping or tying a baby down to a crucifixion board and ripping the main part of truly, I think that when you can think about the metaphysical energy, the metaphysical genitalia, his ability to ejaculate his dreams into the womb of the universe, his ability to ejaculate who he is, his authentic expression has been ripped. And men connect deeply to this space. It is how they operate, and it's a beautiful way for them to operate and to really access that power, because men are extremely powerful, but they're not supported. And there's like nothing that in this space. And then now, you know, throwing in all that feminine stuff, then women are getting all these, you know, subliminals, and now they're hypnotized into thinking that men are the problem. But it's like, but why aren't we looking at why maybe they are the problem? Because we're the victims. And if we continue to stay in this victimhood consciousness, then we're never going to have that deep radical responsibility that we were talking about earlier on this call.
Sure. Excuse me. That's half an hour gone. Just on that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We've touched this. We barely like.
Yeah, sure.
This is the tip of the iceberg for sure.
I mean, I was thinking of an angle, but I'm not the expert on this. What else do you think people need to know?
Well, do you want to kind of
next most important thing in your opinion?
Okay, why don't we go into the structure of how they go about circumcision in Islam and in Judaism?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do that. So I don't know a lot about Islam. They do have there's more circumcised men in Islam than there really is anywhere else.
Really?
It's more yeah, because of their religion, and they do it at about 7 years old up until, you know, past puberty, but they normally do it. And I've seen these like circumcision parlors that they have, and it's these kids kind of just sitting on a bench, just waiting for their turn. And there's like all these beds that are in this room, and they're all getting cut.
Now you mention that, I remember seeing a video years ago, and there was some celebrity fat man supposed to be really famous, and your kid was really, really lucky if they got the snip by this guy. He was like the Jimmy Savile of circumcision. Every kid wanted to sit on his knee. It's some video I saw years ago, and you just reminded me of it. And it's funny because, well, not that. Well,
he's circumfed. That's, you would call him a circumfetish, and there's people that actually get off on circumcising infants.
This guy was like a TV celebrity type, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, on some level, he must have been getting off on it.
Yeah, like that's why I said he was maybe the Jimmy Savile of circumcision. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on. Sorry, I just
disgusting. No, thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's just like another layer to this that, you know, we could get into, but it's just like there's a fixation on circumcising penises, and not only do other men have it, mohils and people that are in, you know, religious dogmatic thought, it's also women. A lot of these moms, like I've seen videos of these moms on Facebook and on Instagram, they're getting super excited about the day that they're like, oh, your future wife is going to thank me, or like they're dancing with their son, and then you'll see the after picture of what he looks like. It's like, but it's sick. And so it just really goes even deeper into how this is creating this deep, dark distortion of this whole situation. And people have absolutely no idea. But getting back into how the Muslims do it, it varies. So from what I know, because I was telling you earlier, I'm kind of more solution oriented. I've kind of turned away from getting really into specifics to certain religion and certain details. But what I do know is every family has a different ceremony, a different structure, and how they go about the rites of this covenant, of this blood covenant. And I've heard that some of these parents will, they'll cut the son, they'll eat the foreskin, they'll bury the foreskin, they'll put it on their ankles. I thought that was like really bizarre. And like, I wouldn't just make that up because it's just like, what? And then so that's usually when they do it. I don't remember why at the age of 7. I can't answer that question for you right now, but if you ask me, I'd be happy to retrieve it for you. Then you have Judaism, which is a lot more structured. There is a day, there is a ceremony and what it looks like. There's the mohel, and then there's the family. And then this is how they end up doing it. And I've got a crazy story for you. And this is how they go about it. There's a mohel. And sometimes, depending on the tradition, how rich they are, if they're Hasidic or not, or like more, what's the other one? The other Jewish, it's like they're, it starts with an O. They're like Orthodox. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. They will use. They don't have any medical licenses, nor do they have any anesthetic, and that's the purpose, because they want the baby to remember the trauma for the rest of their life when they have sex. Like the Jews know exactly what happens. They know it removes him from his sexuality. They know it removes him from his ability to really connect with himself. And they know that it messes up the dynamic within the relationship with his wife. And they know that it dissatisfies the wife, because a circumcised penis actually is a lot more uncomfortable for a woman. So anyway, we're back it's called the Brit Milah. And in the Brit Milah, there's different components of it. There's the cutting of the foreskin, and they can buy a clamp online. You can buy one on Etsy if you want to. You can buy circumstance. Some go all the way up to, there's like Olympic models, all these models of these boards that you can buy up to like $700, $800, which is sick. I've even seen one for like $1,300. And even looking that up, it's just like one of the hardest things to do. So they will hold the baby down, like the dad, the mom. So the dads will be in one corner. Essentially, I have like a kind of a mole who's been sharing a lot of information. The dads are basically who have been traumatized. They've had these circumcision trauma that gets more trauma. The moms are in another corner, usually in the other room, comforting the mom who knows in her body deeply that this is wrong. They're talking about shoes. They're talking about fashion. They're talking about the fact, don't worry, this is good. It's going to be over soon. So they're basically like calming her down and pushing her further away from her bodily knowing of what is happening, while the men who have been traumatized are raping an infant on the other side of the room. And so some of these mohels will have a fingernail that they'll keep really long and keep sharp. And they will use the fingernail to slice the circumcision, and they'll take as much skin as they can. And they learned through time that the more skin, the better. And because they didn't want any of these guys to later do foreskin restoration, where you can use the fibroblasts that still exist within the foreskin that has been left to regrow at least a coverage for the glands, because that's what needs to be covered most importantly. And that's a psychosomatic, beautiful healing process. So they'll use their fingernail, and then they'll rip it off. Peeling a fingernail, peeling. This baby is losing his life almost. Well, his soul pieces are coming off. And then there's another ritual layered inside the Brit Milah called the Matzitza Bipe. It's where the rabbi will put his mouth on top of the wound, suck the blood off of the infant's penis, spit it into a goblet of wine, and let the other people in the circle drink of it.
Pass it around, yeah.
Yeah. And this is...
Let that sink in. Yeah.
Trickery. That's a trick. That's the dark. Again, you can see a scene like this. And I had never even thought about it like that. So I have someone who I'm trying to get on a call to interview, and she had she had 3 boys, and she's Jewish, and she didn't choose to cut. And she's shared with me the brainwashing of these moms, the things that they'll say to her, the things that they say behind closed doors, the brisses that the breeds that she's been to that have, she basically explained this whole story. And I was like, this is the problem. There's like this wedge in between the masculine and the feminine, and why we're at war with each other, because a woman is being basically convinced out of her own devices, out of her own autonomy, out of her own connection to her infant, her child, while her husband is operating within an entity, because a trauma will turn into an entity. And it has its own like consciousness in a way. And they're basically operating from this dark entity of trauma, of circumcision trauma, and basically all in another part of the room raping an infant. How does that not hijack, break down, rip apart, shred the masculine and the feminine dynamic? It is intentional. Get us at war. Make these feminists, make these guys kill themselves, make these families that come in with these broken families miserable, make those kids miserable. Because if you can control the womb and you can disconnect her and then disconnect that baby, you can control humanity. Simple, plain and simple. Remember I said earlier, plain and simple. Here it is, folks.
Yeah, and so I think it's important to just kind of come back to present, because we've just been on a roller coaster of hell, frankly, and thank you, thank you. But it's a tough listen.
I've digested this so much that I forget that people are having a moment, because I had to go have my, like I call it my funeral.
Sure.
I had my circumcision funeral.
Yeah.
And I've had to really release a lot of anger and a lot of rage that I've had on a personal level to be able to stand and speak from a solid, grounded, feminine voice to speak upon something like this from a space where I can still keep it together. So I forget that I had that journey. So we can totally tame it. We can totally take a moment for everyone just to take a couple of bigger breaths in if they need to.
Well, listen, I'll just say this. I think a lot of people in this world now, we're seeing in the newspapers, the rise of anti-Semitism, and people are saying everything going on in the world at the moment, it's a Jewish conspiracy and blah blah blah. And of course, all this fire is stoked. I'm not siding with anyone. To sort of paraphrase Jordan Maxwell, in a way, I'm not anti any people. I'm pro-human. And I'm not anti-Jewish. I'm anti-BS. I'm not anti-Islam. I'm anti-BS. And if what constitutes Islam and Judaism is torturous, abusive ritual, if that's what it's about, then it's BS, because it's basically saying God got it wrong. The creator of the universe made a mistake when it came to genitalia. Well, isn't God capable of fixing that himself, the creator of the universe? Instead of which, you've got two Abrahamic religions. I call it that very deliberately, because I single those two out, not because I'm against the people. I'm not against the individuals at all. but they've had their minds screwed with it. Both sides are under a spell. And I've talked about this before. I've done a like a podcast thing on this, the kind of black cube symbolism. So with Islam, you've got the Kaaba, the black cube in the center of Mecca, which, you know, when the Muslims, they make Hajj, and they go I think they march anti-clockwise 7 times or something like that around the Kaaba. And they go to kiss the stone. I forget what it's called now, but there's a stone embedded into the corner. And again, this is exactly, it's right there with biblical stuff. The stone the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. So it's right there in Islam. Many would say the chief cornerstone represents the capstone on a pyramid. That's a whole other rabbit hole. But the idea of the stone of the corner on the Kaaba was it was kind of like a pure thing once, and it's turned black. And it was supposedly a meteorite. So, like, Lucifer was cast from the heavens and a third of the angels followed or something. A fallen star, there's that kind of story, and it's supposed to be a meteorite, and it's jet black, supposedly. I believe I'm right in saying, because it's supposed to have absorbed all the sins of all mankind into itself. Well, wasn't that Jesus Christ's role as well, or something like that? And he was the stone that the builders rejected, and he's become the chief cornerstone. So it's kind of what I'm hinting at is it's largely the same story, but you've got this stone, this cornerstone embedded within the Kaaba, the big black cube in Mecca. Meanwhile, the Jews, the Orthodox Jews, I think it's the Orthodox, they wear the black cube directly on their heads, the phylacteries or tefillin on their heads, and on basically they do the wrapping with their strong arm onto the weak arm. So if they're right-handed, they're going to bind the phylactery to their left arm, and it kind of sits on the bicep, and then you've got the leather strapping goes around the wrist. If they're left-handed, they're going to bind it onto their right arm. I think that's how it works. But because the tefillin, they contain 4 scriptures, and I forget now, it's from the Torah. I think is it Exodus and Deuteronomy or something like that, and it's basically affirming that this is the land that God has given to you. It's your right to take it. It's your land for the taking, and this is bound to their heads and to their arms, and so they've been fed this idea that it's and then the whole kind of trauma thing that we've just spoken about. What kind of detachment is that going to? You experience extreme trauma. It's going to fracture the mind. There's parts of the soul are going to become detached, like you've alluded to. And then from the youngest age, from the age of reason, I don't know, 3, 4, whatever, they're going to the synagogue and they're watching all these adults with their paraphernalia, and they've got these black cubes on their heads, and it's this stuff goes on, and they're going through a lifetime of being told that this land, Israel, this is the promised land, it's your land. And it's yours for the taking, and you're God's chosen people, and everybody else is just the goyim. They're just animals. Yeah. They're animals, and their minds are so fractured. Of course, what I'm trying to say here, that these people are victims.
Right.
They're not, I'm not going to sit here and agree with loads of people who sort of follow these lines of thinking that it's the Jews, the Jews are behind everything. Yeah, they've been they've had a body part ripped off. They've been traumatized deliberately, and they've had this fabrication called anti-Semitism. It's like a big cuddly thing that they all get to hide behind when the world is poisoned against them because of whatever mainstream sources. Everything about these people is victim, and yet that's kind of the joke, because this is what outfits like the ADL push. It's like victim all the time, and you know what? Is people see this and they think it doesn't wash, and then they get angry, and then you wonder why anti-Semitism is on the rise, but people don't know a quarter, let alone a half. They don't know 1/10. And that's why I wanted to get you on.
Yeah.
Because it all
Thanks.
starts. This is hell.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love that you brought this up, because that's such a big awareness. Not that many people have the capacity to really take it that deep, as saying like these people are operating from trauma, and they are victims of this too, because they were the ones. Yeah, because they were the ones, like I just described, being raped by their family members, the men in their family. So like, it's just this repeating lineage of this, like I keep seeing it as this dark goo web of just like clenching on to every single new generation within a family. And where does that come from? So that's the questions we have to ask, is like, what's underneath it? I was on a call yesterday. This beautiful woman interviewed me from Australia, and she said that, you know, her husband's Muslim, and she found out she was pregnant with a boy, and she didn't want to be, she was like hoping it was a girl so she wouldn't have to actually go into the circumcision conversation. And she said she was having a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, particularly like in the bedroom. It was difficult for her to like trust him. It was difficult for her to want to get intimate with him. But then she looked at it and thought, you know what, this isn't my husband, because he was pushing for circumcision, and her doula was telling her, you need to look into this. And when you look into it, you kind of find out exactly what we're talking about. And she actually saw him as a trauma victim, and was capable of actually moving him into another, actually pulling the trauma out as, like I mentioned earlier, like another entity within the relationship that was sharing the same marital container. And how she had to look at it as like, he's only responding to circumcision based upon his trauma. And if he didn't have this trauma, we wouldn't be doing this. So it's really reflecting everything that you just said, and having that ability to take so much of the gunk, so much of like, we want to be angry. We want to throw all this stuff at people. We want to blame and all this stuff, but we have to actually mature into the way that we can expand our consciousness so that we can look underneath it and be like, where we all have the same perpetrator, oppressor. It's coming from the same source, which is why I constantly am going back into the spiritual warfare of things, because it's just, again, here comes it's all energy. It's an energy that's literally weaving through the brainwaves of these trauma victims. And where is that energy stemming from? It's stemming from a group of energy, dark energy, that is trying to take the power in this whole warfare game.
Yeah. Wow. Well, listen, there goes another half an hour. We've got 3 minutes, and we officially go off air on the main the main network. That's WBN 324. But we carry on other platforms. So, I mean, if I'm happy to keep chatting if you are for a while. This is, it's a tough listen. I had a feeling it might be, but it's a tough listen, but it's an education. And thank you.
Yeah.
Thus far.
You.
So I'm going to say, with about 2.5 minutes to go, not even, wow, we're so close to out of time. Any parting words for listeners?
Thank you for sitting and listening, it's tough. And when I take myself through my lifeline, I can connect deeply to what you're experiencing if this was really difficult for you. I will also like to state that there are ways to heal this trauma. If you are someone who is now curious or you feel alone, I have resources for a community where you can actually not feel that you have to go through this alone like I did and a lot of current people that currently go through. And you're a brave soul for sitting through it if you did. And I'm just so grateful that you were able to hold on and listen to everything that we're sharing today, because I think this is one of the most important topics of our time currently because of how deeply it goes into the human psyche and our behavior and what's happening on a global capacity.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you very much. I think that's a great place to end this part of things. So I'm going to say to folk listening on DLive, on pilled.net, Studio 8424, Radio 8424, Radio Soapbox, WTFR.net, and anywhere else you're listening in, don't go away, because we're going to carry on the conversation, and I will be uploading to Rumble and BitChute in due course. I've still got to upload the Wednesday show. Yeah, I'm so behind times, but there's only one of me. But anyway, you lovely folk listening on WBN 324, you've been listening to Jenna McClelland as a guest. Take care. I will catch you on Sunday Long Live Radio with Ria Bo. Bye bye for now. We're back. We're back, everyone. Yeah, and where are we going? We were talking about stuff behind the scenes.
Penis owner and vulva owner, and
oh god, yeah. I know
how the government pushes it, because when they can pull us away from being a male or a female, we're running away from the actual spiritual authority of being a man or a woman claiming authority within our space. So if we can put non-gendered or AI or they, them, that removes us from the ability to actually having that sovereignty if we were to try to like actually do anything different when it comes to escaping the public deception arena.
And we were talking a couple of nights ago on a show about I think as well the importance of, or the emphasis of, pronouns, because titles Mr. and Mrs. are their legal fiction titles. They're related to maritime law, which is what they tie us all up with. And so it's interesting to observe they've invented all these new pronouns and there's such an emphasis on it. And it is, as you say, it's detaching from who and what you really are.
Exactly. And so if they can do that, then they're not gonna, like, the jurisdiction is it's over.
Yeah.
Like, they could, you're property of them now. But at least if you claim male or woman, right, of mankind, like, to me, it's totally okay to say mankind, because I know what you mean and I know what it represents. A woman of mankind is very powerful, and a woman of mankind actually has authority over all of the trickery within the legalese that is made to enslave us. So if you can check in the box of, gender fluid, or you don't have one, then boom, they got you. You're in it, and you're now their property fully. I mean, if you were to even go into the Black Laws Dictionary, you'd see that citizen means slave and property of the state.
Yeah.
So this is an agenda, the removing us away from the masculine and feminine archetype, the divine, and getting us to be traumatized, to disconnect from source, disconnect from spirit, believe all these things. Then we're not going to have anything. We're not going to have anything to help us gain our power, which is what we were talking about in the beginning of our conversation, which is to heal, to elevate, and to prevail against it, to see the truth and to access our powers. But they don't want us to do that.
Yeah.
So the rhetoric or the choice of diction towards penis owner and vulva owner is part of how they do it. And to have school educational systems that don't even use the terms male or female is unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I've been kind of learning about this stuff. You were talking about it earlier. Kind of 2020 began the great crash course in corruption, and I've been learning this stuff since 2020, and it's just my eyes still glaze over. There's so much to take in, and I gasp in disbelief at how malevolent this system is. It's there are no words really. It's insane. And for what purpose? I mean, who benefits? And once you've got everything, what are you going to do with it? You know, have these morons not thought of this? It's like they're so consumed with greed and what have you. I'm surprised they've got any intelligence left. I'm surprised they've got 2 brain cells left to be able to carry on with this agenda. Again, maybe it's not actually them. It's like you suggested. It's actually formed an entity within them because they themselves are traumatized. Those who shouldn't be in charge.
And I love that you bring that back because I currently have a mentor and he is like, you turn the light on, and turning the light on would be against, like, a lot of people are like, you know, have you done healthy shaming, or can you like shame some of these people into recognizing like what they're doing, and specifically a lot of these doctors. But what happens is because they're operating from like a dark thought of control, that if you were to shame or say certain things in a certain way, that is like basically projecting anger or telling them what they're doing is wrong. What happens is that the entity within them will actually take over, glaze over, I'll steal your term, and they will want to do it even more. So then the dark will use them as more of a prop or a puppet to use that, how they get upset, and then to keep doing it even more, which is why you have to be really sure sometimes when you're speaking like about or asking questions to people in the medical field, there has to be of a specific frame towards like really shedding more light on what's happening, opposed to like, you did this and you've done that, because that's going to feed the beast. And then the dark can use them as a puppet to keep doing it, to perpetuating the problem, which is really fascinating because, you know, for me, like a couple of the videos that I've put out, you know, the very first one that I did, the series that you watched, which thank you for sitting through that. That's amazing. You know, I was told, be careful, you know, of how you go about this and what you say, and, you know, don't point the finger a lot. But then I ended up having another video where I just like, I allowed all the rage to come out, and I wasn't trying to get to the doctors. I wasn't trying to get to people who weren't awake. I was trying to get the people that are awake, the people that are like, nowadays you throw out weather modification and they're like, yeah, totally. Like, or you throw out something like, and they're just like, you know what? I wouldn't doubt it, considering I wanted to get that energy and literally cast it towards them to hit something in their brain, an alarm that would go off that would say, I never looked into this space, because you had it too in 2020. We're all looking through all the shit. We're all like, oh my God, this and that. But circumcision wasn't in there. So I was like, circumcision needs to go into everything that you already know isn't true. Mm-hmm. And being really careful sometimes about like how you're choosing to go about it. But I thought that was fascinating because the trauma does really respond as an entity. It will take somewhat over, and how they respond based upon the reptilian brain. And you have to be sure to not only connect to the reptilian brain when you're connecting to these people, but you also have to tap into the frontal lobe And the frontal lobe actually has a lot to do with possibility and more light and more imagination and into the future. So if you can start to articulate some of the things that you're saying to these people and activate both, then you'll get to move away from that entity thought. So they're not responding on trauma. They're actually capable of making a decision.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've studied this left brain, right brain, R complex and stuff, and you know that the whole thing about you jump in your car to go to work and you arrive at work and you're perfectly safe, but you can't remember a single thing about the journey because you don't need to, because you've learned that, and then that becomes instinct and it's relegated to essentially an unconscious part of the brain, which is connected to that's connected with your central nervous system, you know, it's right on your spinal column and stuff. So you're not even conscious. It's like muscle memory. And so for a learned pattern, learned through trauma, I guess, or yeah, that's kind of what I mean, but like a pattern of action that has been brought about through trauma that isn't even aware it's carrying out the actions, that's hidden within the subconscious, whether it's literally in the R complex, the back of the brain, or at the cellular level, that's kind of irrelevant really, but it is that subconscious. And so I kind of, it's not necessarily an entity as in, you know, think of like a demon, but it's a function.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a self-perpetuating function.
Yes. Thank you for sharing it like that. Because I can get and it's just more clarity for people listening. That's exactly, you nailed it. That's exactly how it becomes a part of the psychology that kind of will just move in from a trigger, essentially. Yes, yeah. And so the reason why sometimes I like to even use the word entity is because like trying to think of yourself away, like this isn't you. And so that gives you power to realize that you have something outside of yourself that you can work on, because a lot of the ways that we think it psychologically, it just becomes this, it's part of you, it's this and that. But there's some frames of thought where you can reframe it to the way that you feel like, you know what, I do have power over this thing and I can actually do it. So for me, it makes it feel easier. Like I know I have a friend who was telling me about a book. I haven't read it yet, but she says that about addiction, that it's not necessarily you. There's like a beast inside of you, and it's the beast that's wanting to take over. It's not you, it's that beast. And so being able to create this separation, you can actually look at it and focus in and dissect it a little bit more for what it is, opposed to when it's like super close, it comes out of your vision of exploration. So I love that you said that. Yeah.
So think cravings, you know, I'm not even a woman, right? And I've got a bar of Lindt chocolate. Oh man! And this is
so good.
This is dark chocolate with. So I mean, this stuff's like £4 a bar or something. This is loaded with 35% hazelnut. This is really good stuff, and I'm supposed to be doing keto. I'm trying to get healthy. I'm living on like boiled eggs and kale and green beans, and I'm eating. I kind of, you know, I'm not doing carbs apart from a cheeky bit of chocolate, but sometimes, and whiskey. Hey, it's the weekend, but sometimes the cravings. Oh God, I must have.
Yeah.
I must have. But it's recognizing that actually, yeah, I'm absolutely free to follow that craving. I'm free to entertain that craving. But we all know where it leads in the end. And so no, I am going to choose to resist that craving. And yeah,
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that is again, this is kind of one of the fruits of the spirit. I think it's from the New Testament. Was it love, joy, peace, patience, something, and self-control is a fruit of the spirit. Now, whatever you believe about the woo-woo side of things, but think of it like this: if you're in touch with who you really are, then these things, addictions, cravings, you could call that an entity of a fashion, but it doesn't rule you. It can't rule you.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, because I've got to say it, a lot of people in this world think with what's between their legs. They'll shag anything.
Yeah.
And so to kind of screw around with that part of the body is a direct interference of a fashion with a connection to a subconscious, I don't know, it's a feeling, it could be a source of craving, and to scar that, what's that going to do? I'm asking because I'm not entirely sure, but
so there actually, from studies that I have read, the circumcised men are more prone to porn. They have they're more prone for masturbation.
Yeah.
They're more prone to like sexual violation. So their privates have been distorted and messed with, and so they're not functioning in the way that God intended. Essentially,
it's interesting. If I can just jump in at that point, just to say, because I know a lot of people who are, I'll word it like this: it's the Jews brigade, the ones who like to point the finger at the Jews. The Jews are responsible for this, and they've been kicked out of 100 and however many countries, and blah blah blah. And you can't ignore certain things. You can't just run away because it's anti-Semitic. There is a reason such things are happening. There is a reason that there are a lot of Jewish, unfortunately, a lot of Jewish people involved directly in running the porn industry. And this has got to be something to do with it, because, again, I'm going to say it's probably not them. It is an entity that has been fabricated for a purpose in order to F up the whole world, for the purpose of causing separation from the divine or whatever. And so these people are being used as pawns in the sickest, I gotta swear, the sickest fucking game in the world.
Yeah.
In order to do this. And then despite being the most abused victims, they're the ones that get the fingers pointed at them.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Crazy
figure.
how it's all it's like trampled in a contradiction and how it's operating. But I even just found out a couple of days ago, I think like the actual true originator of OnlyFans also is. Yeah. And it's in what, I don't know if you're like, cause I do obviously lean more spiritual in the way that I speak, and the way of the things that I do know and that I feel. But it's wild is to think about the karma. And if you even do talk about karma, if you even do really understand soul contracts. And so some things that is actually kind of, I don't know what it is, but it is an interesting way of comforting a mother who has recognized that she's circumcised her son, and then like later says like, oh my God, I actually completely messed up on this one, and I was duped. In her experience, one thing that I usually tell her is that's a soul contract. Like we have these contracts coming in to Earth School, so that we can evolve, because there's something within being a victim. There's something underneath that trauma that's going to teach us and help us evolve as a soul so that we can continue to ascend into a higher realm of consciousness, into more assignment based, into more, I guess, purity, I guess, more light, right? More of what the absolute truly is. And I think there's a lot of the contracts, specifically with perhaps the Jews, specifically with these mothers and these babies that are getting circumcised. Like there is a reason as to why this is happening. And so you've got two choices. You can sit in the victim and we can be angry and we can be upset and continue to point our finger, or we can actually take this as an opportunity to heal and to remove that desire for punishment of others, so then we can put more love and put more light into the world, opposed to trauma just continuing on. Because I tell a lot of people, okay, what happens? Let's say, oh my God, Joss, I just got a text message, circumcision's done. It's over worldwide. Okay, great. But then what? What about all the victims, all the people, billions of people who have been cut? What about them? Is circumcision going to continue to be a claw in the psyche of man because they're not actually healing? Because what a man or a woman or a human, whatever they don't heal, it passes down. It moves through the bloodline. And so I think, so I think that if circumcision, I did get that text and it's done, it's over. That's great. But we have to heal it, because it's going to continue to persist, and the loop is going to continue on. And even though it would be a part of the past, it's going to be a part of the future, because no one is actually really going into that radical self of deep accountability and responsibility. Feel the victim, feel the rage, do everything you do, talk to the people that you need to do, but you got to heal it. Because if we want a new world, we can't operate within this old world system that's deteriorating. We have to create a new one with a new way of thinking out of these dense energies, these dense frequencies that are keeping us locked and closer to the depths of hell.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Very quickly. I just want to say, we got a new follower, a couple of new followers actually, but Jenny21 has just followed. Welcome to you, and thank you very much for the diamond as well. Much appreciated. And we got 3 lemons from Didgeridoo, 3 as well. I didn't say hi to Owie1 either. Good to see you. Thank you for and Jenny just subscribed for 3 months. Flipping heck. Welcome to you. Owie1, thank you very much for the ice cream. And anyone else I've missed. I like to be inclusive with our diverse audience and all of that. Ash, thank you very much for the ice cream, if I didn't thank you. And anyone else who's said hello. Secret Squirrel, that was the other new follower as well. Welcome to you. Alas, new followers, you can't comment for the first 24 hours. It's an anti-troll measure. I've had many trolls. Well, probably just the one troll, but they keep coming back and back and back and back and back and back, a bit like an entity or something.
That's the term of the day.
Yeah, we'll go with that. So, yeah, Pandora Chaser in the chat here saying, Pornhub's owner is a Jewish rabbi. Amazing.
You know, does anyone know, can anyone answer, who was the Girls Gone Wild guy? Do you remember, homeboy? Was he also a Jew?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
He got into some serious trouble. And again, I feel like I'm kind of stereotyping, but all these other, like, you got, Pornhub, OnlyFans. I just didn't know if someone knew, because I think he ended up getting in trouble for it. And if I do remember correctly, another stereotype would be just like, I think he had I don't know, I actually kind of don't even want to say it, but maybe I could see how maybe he could be, is all I'm going to say about that.
All right. Yeah, okay. But again, I mean, this is, it has become a kind of a sick stereotype, and it does lead to much criticism, much suspicion, pointing the finger. It's kind of, you know, I'm sort of thinking of it not so much as the Jews are God's chosen people, so much as Satan's chosen victims.
Such a reframe now. Like, I'm going to take that as a gift and start sharing what you're saying, because nobody is looking at it like that. Nobody. Because again, it takes that radical responsibility, and then being able to actually be like, you know what? Wow. Like, they are victims, and this is why they're responding. Just how I'm asking people to look at the way that men are behaving, and rather look at what is happening to them underneath it. So I'm really happy that you shared that with me, and I acknowledge that. So I think it's good. It's helpful. I really do.
Cool. And it's staring us in the face, frankly, you know?
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So where did we get to? We gone off on so many tangents. I love it, but we got to keep sort of bringing it back to, okay, next, where now? And I'm aware of the time as well. It's 1:45, so we'll have been going 3 hours. I mean, I'm happy to carry on, but I'm conscious it's 3 hours.
I'll be having dinner in the next 15 minutes, so we'll see what we can get done. And until then, you know,
all right.
When we're within circumcision, where it's a circumcision, and then it's, you know, these other like family trees. So it's like sex, you know, religion, Stockholm syndrome, trauma,
big one. Yep.
The medical cult. So like it just keeps going.
Yeah.
But we can always stay more along the, you know, what is this, the feminist movement, my experience with some of these people with these gender confusion tags of constantly projecting all their shit onto people. I could even share the story how I ended up telling one of them off in front of that whole somatic sex school, and made her cry because of her constantly projecting her trauma onto me, telling me that I needed to change, until finally I ended up just telling these, it was white woman of privilege, white man of privilege, race, power dynamics, gender fluidity. What else was it? I mean, it was just like this constant in your face, all these political things. Cause I was in school. There was part of it was 2 weeks in the redwood trees. I was so lucky. And those redwood trees held me in such a beautiful way. And I don't know what I would have done had we had not been there, because I had become this chameleon because of the things that I ended up learning. Because I knew I was going to be immersed in school for 14 days with these people. And we did some really deep, like, sexual work on sexual organs, hence scar tissue remediation, internal anal sphincter massage work, which is beyond internal vaginal mapping and work, and then external vulva mapping and penis mapping. So we were all going to be doing these specific practices that help. Usually the reason why that you would even do it in the first place is because we're so dissociated, we're so disconnected, particularly women. We haven't really connected to our genitalia in a way that we've like claimed the anatomy. Like, a lot of anatomy books actually have the female genitalia wrong, particularly where they place the urethra and like how things are modeled, and they're not really in their in the correct position, like on illustrations, or how, you know, the clitoris was just basically, I think in 2001, was founded by an Australian, soon to be like a student in a urologist. And she actually, I was asking a question about like certain things, and then she ended up figuring out that there was this whole other organ called the clitoris. So essentially, you know, I was in school because I wanted to learn everything that I could to get to the place to be able to serve men as best as I could in understanding their genitalia and my sexuality, so I could become more of an expert in that field, specifically if I'm talking about like resurrecting the foreskin. And I didn't really realize how much of trauma, how much of people's like racism was going to be thrown at me, how there was just different times where a lot of these women are like ultra feminists, and there was 2 men in the class, how like they wouldn't even let the men speak. They wouldn't let them talk about how they felt, or else they would project and say, well, you need to feel this way, or you shouldn't do it like this. And they were just these constant victims. Like, women have it so bad with sexual trauma. Women, we're more likely to have it. Sure, we absolutely are. But I was sitting in between the 2 men. They became my anchors throughout this whole thing. And I was sitting in between them around a campfire. And I stopped and said, could you listen to yourself for a minute? Like, I'm sitting in between these 2 guys. And sure, your experiences are justifiable. However, 3,000 babies today in the United States alone, and what can be recorded, are being laid down to sexual mutilation torture boards and having the most sensitive part of their sexual body ripped off. And that's not even calculated. Nonetheless, that these boys are also being molested, and they have a high number of molestation. But what happens if we were to actually include circumcision into this realm of sexual trauma with women? What would the numbers even be? And not only are you not considering the fact that these 2 circumcised men right next to me, who have had the most severe trauma happen to them, they've been conditioned not to talk about it because it's trivialized or mocked, and nobody will listen to them because of the way that of the programming. And then the guy to my left goes, yeah, I was sexually assaulted and abused by my stepmother twice. And I wanted to be like, you see, you ignorant, self-absorbed people, women who are incapable of like taking ownership of your shit so you can heal and actually be of service and hear other people's stories. Like, what is it? So the surprise, you're going to get some gold star at the end of this because you've had a life filled with more trauma than your person right next to you. I mean, it goes just into that feminist thought, because they all were within that realm of, we don't work with men. Oh, we don't need to work with white men of privilege. They don't need us. Even the main facilitator was like, oh no, I don't work with white men. I don't work with men. But she's serving all the confused. It again, allowing them to continue to loop their stories of trauma and not really fully taking accountability and understanding what is happening and how they're so confused because of sexual trauma.
And meanwhile, fermenting yet another entity in the minds of hundreds of thousands of young, impressionable women.
Yes.
Who actually...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they're being bred.
It's not an us and them. That's what people need to understand. It is not a left and right. It is not an us and them. Everyone is a victim in this.
Yes.
I mean, you know, I'd like to think most people are intelligent enough to work part of that out, at least by this stage of the game, because we've been on rinse, repeat for so long. But yeah, it's kind of, you know, despite the fact I haven't been to church in years, I don't call myself a Christian. I don't subscribe to. I don't want to subscribe to that sort of victim mentality of a big angry sky daddy way of thinking. But the words of Jesus, I still find very profound, because the words, as when Christ himself was hanging on the cross, being punished for all the wrongdoing in the world, he still had the grace to say, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And anyone who can see this for what it is, anyone exploring this journey, needs to have the same heart to love the unlovable. In a way, we've got to sort of try to come in the completely opposite spirit. And I mean, I feel like a bit of a hypocrite because no one likes moaning about politicians more than I do. I hate their vile works. Disgusting creatures, amoral scumbags that they are. But again, how many of them are just programmed pawns?
Yeah.
You know, we've done all the allegedly Keir Starmer, our own Prime Minister, allegedly had a bunch of rent boys who, I don't know, may have been Ukrainian and may have set fire to property and vandalised, I don't know, it was in the papers recently, but not the bit about him having rent boys, but there's all kinds of rumours doing the rounds. But these are all, you know, any politician with any power, there's a group of people who've got a little black book with their name in it and all kinds of dirty details. And, you know, I wonder about this bloody list, the Epstein list we keep hearing about. Is that even real? Is that a distraction? But guaranteed it is a shadow of reality. It's a shadow of what really is, and it is total fear-based mind control.
Yeah.
And everyone is a victim of this. So I think we'd kind of all do well to learn a bit more compassion for ourselves. I'm starting to sound like Jerry Springer now. For ourselves and each other, kind of thing, you know. Yeah, just wanted to chuck that in there. Anyway, listen, what do you want to do? Because in about 6 minutes, you're having dinner. Not that I want to get rid of you. I've really, as harrowing as it has been, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, likewise. I'm so happy. That was a lot of fun, and I was able to speak on a lot of things that I haven't really had the chance to speak about yet. You know, every day I'm just learning so much, and there's something new to share, and how I evolve, because the more that I evolve and the more that I'm constantly taking radical responsibility within my life, it's giving me more information to be better of service for humanity. Yeah. And however it is that it was orchestrated, that you listened to me that day when you listened to the Here for the Truth with your awesome host and Joel, like, you know, there are no coincidences, and I'm just I'm really grateful to, this is amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Pleasure. And I'd be very happy to have you join me again. Yeah. If we can, you know, if you think there's more to talk about,
it's more. Yeah. There's always more, for sure. You know, within the realm of perversion, because that's what this is.
Yeah. Big time. Well, let's stay in touch anyway. I think it kind of feels like it's the right time to end things. 3 hours we've been going. Yeah,
this is epic.
It's good. It's really good, and we've still got
I hope everyone's happy.
We've still got a whole bunch of people listening.
Oh, good. Thank you for sticking around. We love you guys. Or at least I do.
Yeah. So where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on my YouTube channel.
Which is?
So my Instagram is Jenna_McClelland_. So I don't know if you need like help spelling that, or should I just say
the best thing to do, have you got a website?
Yes, I have a website. It's jennamcclelland.co, not com. It's co. Com was taken.
That's a shame. Well, listen, probably the best thing to do, right? It's going to take me a few days to upload this, but I'll get this up on Rumble and BitChute, and I'll send you a copy as well if you want to do something with it. I'll probably use WeTransfer.com or something. But in the meantime, if you want to email me all your contacts,
Okay.
social media, etc., send me everything. If you want to send me a bio or whatever, and I'll put that in the description under the videos. and
Yeah.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah. That sounds great. I'll email you next couple of days.
Excellent. All right.
It was a pleasure.
It was. Any parting words?
Just grateful. Whatever it is that led us to this moment. It's just beautiful. So, yeah.
Bless you. Thank you very much.
Me too. Yeah.
All right.
We'll be in touch. We'll talk soon.
Bless
Bye.
you. Take care. Bye-bye for now.